The city was a labyrinth of neon and shadow, the night alive with the whispers of secrets and the echoes of forgotten dreams. The streets were slick with rain, and the distant hum of traffic seemed to pulse like a heartbeat in the damp air. Amidst this urban jungle, a figure moved with an almost unnatural grace. He stood in the alleyway's narrow confines, his silhouette stark against the flickering light from a nearby street lamp. His eyes darted from side to side, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement or threat. He clutched a small notebook tightly in one hand and a pencil in the other. The sound of raindrops tapping against the pavement was almost deafening, each drop a tiny drumbeat of tension. Suddenly, his grip on the notebook tightened as he peered into the darkness behind him, his breath catching in his throat. "Who's there?" His voice was barely more than a whisper, but it carried across the alleyway with an eerie clarity. The silence that followed was oppressive, thick and heavy. Shadows seemed to shift and twist like snakes, ready to strike at any moment. His heart pounded in his chest, a frantic drumroll that echoed through his entire body. A soft rustling from above made him look up. The clouds had parted momentarily, revealing a sliver of moonlight that illuminated the rooftops, just enough to cast strange shadows. There was movement there, subtle and deliberate, a figure moving with fluid grace across the buildings, its form only a silhouette against the darker sky. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice cracking slightly with fear and adrenaline. "Show yourself." The figure paused for a moment, as if considering whether to respond or remain hidden. Then slowly it stepped forward into view, revealing itself with each careful step. The figure was unmistakably female, yet there was something inhuman about her presence. Her skin seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light, and her eyes were a mesmerizing silver that seemed to peer through the darkness. She carried herself with the confidence of royalty, her posture regal despite the casual stance. "Looking for answers?" she asked, her voice low and melodic, carrying an odd resonance that sent shivers down his spine. "Or perhaps just something to fear." He swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her gaze on him. It was as if the air around them thickened, and time itself slowed. The world seemed to narrow, focusing solely on this moment, this encounter that felt like a knife edge poised between truth and deception. "Who are you?" he repeated, his voice stronger now, though still laced with uncertainty. She smiled, her lips curling in a way that was both enigmatic and unsettling. "I am many things," she said softly. "Tonight, I am here to watch and learn." Her words sent a cold shiver through him, but before he could respond, there was another sound, a faint clicking noise, like the snap of a pencil blade breaking. He looked down and saw that his grip on the pencil had been so tight that it had snapped in half. The woman's eyes widened slightly as if surprised by this small act, then narrowed again with a hint of amusement. "You drop your tools, human," she noted, her tone dripping with an eerie sense of superiority. "Do you think I am any different?" Before he could react to her cryptic comment, she suddenly looked past him, towards the sky. Her gaze was fixed on a spot above them, and as she did so, the moonlight seemed to dim slightly. "Stars, look away," she murmured almost to herself, though it sounded like an ominous warning. The sudden shift in her demeanor made his skin crawl. She turned back to him, those silver eyes boring into his very soul. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked, a quiet intensity in her voice. "Do you see what I truly am?" Her question hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. It was as if she had unlocked some deeper truth about herself, and now wanted him to see it too. His mind raced with confusion and fear, but there was also an undeniable fascination drawing him closer to her, pulling him into this strange world she represented. But before he could reply, the city around them seemed to pulse with sudden activity. Sirens wailed in the distance, a warning that drew his attention away from her for just a moment. "Someone's coming," he said, eyes flicking over to the source of the noise. The woman simply nodded, turning slightly to look in the direction of the approaching chaos. "They always do," she said, her voice soft but filled with an undercurrent of warning. "Tonight is not your night to confront." Without another word, she began moving backwards, her form melting back into the shadows as swiftly and silently as she had appeared. As if drawn by a magnetic force, he followed her gaze, unable to tear himself away. She vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only the faintest shimmer of her presence. The alleyway was empty once more, save for him standing alone amidst the rain-soaked pavement, clutching his broken pencil and staring up at the sky where she had looked moments ago. The stars were gone, obscured by a sudden flurry of clouds that seemed to swallow the moonlight entirely. It was as if the night itself was closing in around him, swallowing the very light that had once revealed her. Panic surged through him as he realized how close he had come to something incomprehensible. The woman's parting words echoed in his mind. "Stars, look away." It was both a warning and a revelation, a hint of danger, but also an invitation to delve deeper into the unknown. But there wasn't time to ponder it further. The sirens were getting closer, drawing nearer with each passing second. Someone or something was moving through the city, and he had no choice but to leave this mysterious encounter behind for now. Turning away from the spot where she had vanished, he began to run, heart racing with a mix of fear and exhilaration. This was only the beginning. Whatever secrets lay ahead, they were far more complex than anything he could have imagined. He would have to stay vigilant, because what was following him now, and where it might lead next, remained as shrouded in mystery as the woman herself. With each step, the tension mounted, and the city seemed to grow darker and more alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. The question lingered: why was she looking at him like that? And what had he just witnessed? The darkness swallowed him whole, leaving behind only the echo of the encounter and the promise of an even greater mystery ahead. And thus begins the journey into a world where the ordinary vanishes and the extraordinary whispers from the shadows. The path forward is filled with uncertainties and dangers, but the first step has already been taken, inviting us deeper into a web of enigmas and revelations. With each step down the narrow, winding path, the sense of foreboding grew stronger. The foliage around them seemed to press in, whispering secrets that only those who dared to listen could ever comprehend. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, an olfactory reminder of the ancient mysteries that lay hidden beneath their feet. Ahead, the path forked into two directions, each shrouded in a veil of darkness that seemed to absorb any remaining light. To the left, the sounds of rushing water grew louder, hinting at the presence of a stream or perhaps a waterfall. To the right, there was an eerie silence that clung to the air like a ghost from days long past. Choosing wisely was crucial, yet with every potential turn, more questions than answers arose. Whose path had they inadvertently stumbled upon? What lay at the heart of this enigmatic trail? And perhaps most daunting, what did they stand to lose should they venture further? The companions paused momentarily, exchanging glances that spoke of both determination and hesitation. They were no strangers to challenges, but the depth of this mystery seemed to extend far beyond the usual puzzles they faced. The path before them was a riddle wrapped in enigmas, each step taken an act of faith rather than knowledge. With a deep breath and a shared nod of resolve, they moved towards the whispering stream to their left. As they neared the source of the water's murmur, it became clear that this was not merely a natural formation, but something crafted by hands long dead or forgotten. Carved into the stones lining the creek bed were ancient symbols, their meaning lost to time and neglect. One companion knelt down beside the water, tracing the etched symbols with a finger, as if hoping to decipher their significance. The coldness of the stone sent shivers up her spine, echoing the growing chill that seemed to settle within them all. It was as though the path itself was trying to push them away, warning of dangers yet unseen. Nevertheless, they pressed on, following the creek through a dense, thicket of trees and overgrown shrubs. The path narrowed again, forcing them to walk single file. Ahead, the sounds of the stream ceased abruptly, replaced by a heavy silence that seemed to suffocate any attempts at conversation or casual thought. At last, they reached the end of the creek, emerging into an open clearing surrounded by towering stone walls that formed a rough circle. In the center stood a large stone monolith, its surface polished by centuries of rain and erosion. Carved into its base were more symbols, a language that spoke of power and secrets long buried. Around the monolith lay scattered artifacts, pottery fragments, rusted pieces of metalwork, and strange, unidentifiable objects whose purpose was unknown. Each item seemed to hold within it a piece of the puzzle they sought to unravel. Yet, as they approached the monolith, the deeper sense of unease that had been creeping into their hearts became undeniable. One by one, they began to circle the stone, searching for any clues or pathways hidden in plain sight. As if responding to their presence, the wind picked up, carrying with it a faint hum, a sound almost imperceptible yet unmistakable in its significance. It was the heartbeat of the earth itself, a living reminder that this place held power beyond understanding. With trembling hands, one of them placed a hand on the monolith's surface, closing their eyes as if trying to feel the history and secrets trapped within. A shiver ran through their body, not from cold but from something deeper, a connection to a time and place far removed from their own. When they opened their eyes, a look of awe and wonder was etched onto their face. "Here," they whispered, pointing at a barely visible indentation in the stone, "there's something here." The others gathered closer, straining their eyes to see what appeared to be another set of symbols, faint but distinct against the aged surface. It was as if the stone itself was revealing its secrets, choosing them as its audience. As they began to decipher these new marks, a soft glow started emanating from within the monolith, growing brighter with each passing moment. The hum in the air swelled, becoming almost palpable, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to vibrate ever so slightly. It was as if some ancient slumbering force had been roused from its resting place, drawn by their presence and the act of breaking the silence. Suddenly, the monolith's surface flickered, and images began to appear like fleeting shadows on a wall, a story etched in light and darkness. Scenes unfolded before them, showing the construction of the structure, the rituals performed around it, and the faces of those who had once walked this path as part of a grander design. Each image held within it a piece of history, a testament to the lives and deeds of generations past. As they watched in awe, the narrative shifted, focusing on a moment of great turmoil, a crisis that brought the ancients to their knees. In the midst of this chaos, a decision was made that involved not only sacrifice, but also the sealing away of powerful knowledge and artifacts. The monolith itself had been constructed as both a guardian and a key, keeping secrets safe until such time as they could be uncovered. With the story laid bare, the images faded back into the stone, leaving behind a profound silence that hung heavily in the air. It was then that one of them noticed, amidst the faint glow that still emanated from the monolith's core, an inscription that had not been there before, a map leading to a location yet unexplored. With hearts full of both reverence and anticipation, they knew their journey was far from over. The path had opened new doors and raised more questions than it answered, but each step taken had brought them closer to understanding the mysteries that lay hidden in the shadows. The secrets of the past were no longer mere whispers in the wind. They were now part of a continuous thread that connected past and present, guiding them towards their next destination. With a final glance at the monolith, its secrets now partially revealed but still deeply enigmatic, they turned to face whatever lay ahead. The path forward was fraught with uncertainties and dangers, yet it was also filled with the promise of discovery and enlightenment. Each step they took was a step into the unknown, a journey that would shape not only their present but also their future, intertwined as it was with the timeless tapestry of the ages. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the barren landscape, the human protagonist, known only as Kai, and the alien dragon woman, Sil-Ra, pressed onward. The sky darkened swiftly, stars flickering to life overhead like distant eyes watching their every move. They were now in the heart of an ancient, forgotten region, where the ground was littered with crumbling ruins and shadowy figures that darted between the shadows, ever wary of the two intruders. Kai's breath formed clouds in the crisp night air, his gaze fixed intently ahead as he navigated by the dim starlight. Beside him, Sil-Ra's bioluminescent scales flickered softly, providing just enough light to see by. Despite their cautious steps, the earth seemed to whisper their passage, and occasionally a distant howl echoed through the night, a reminder of the dangers that lurked unseen. "Stay close," Kai muttered, his voice barely audible over the crunch of gravel beneath his boots. Sil-Ra nodded silently, her wings pressing tightly against her back as she walked in a low crouch, her alien senses alert for any sign of danger. The ruins they navigated were a testament to lost civilization, stores half destroyed by time and war, broken statues of gods no longer worshipped, and sprawling murals depicting ancient battles. Kai could feel the weight of history pressing down on him with each step, a sense of dread that this place held secrets better left buried. They came across an old stone door half buried in sand, its carvings weathered but still legible. He paused to examine them, his fingers tracing the etched symbols. "These tell of a war long ago," he said softly. "It's about this time when they lost." "Lost?" Sil-Ra echoed, her tone curious and slightly puzzled. Kai nodded grimly. "They called it the final war, the last stand against invaders from another world. It didn't end well for them." Sil-Ra's eyes narrowed, her thoughts clearly shifting to their own dire situation. "Do you think we're walking into a similar fate?" "Maybe," Kai replied grimly, pushing back the sand and opening the door with a creaking groan. The entrance led them down a winding staircase carved into stone, deeper into the bowels of this ancient place. As they descended, the air grew colder and heavier, and the light from Sil-Ra's scales dimmed, her body going into defensive mode. "This place feels wrong," she whispered, her voice tinged with concern. "I know," Kai agreed, his senses on edge as well. Something about this place felt off, like an ancient curse that lay dormant until it was disturbed once again. The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to thicken, almost choking them. The staircase opened into a vast cavern, large enough to house a small city, yet now it was empty except for the shadows that danced around them. A strange hum filled the air, like an echo of some ancient chant or incantation. "Look," Sil-Ra murmured, pointing towards the center of the chamber where a massive stone platform stood, surrounded by intricate carvings and symbols. He approached cautiously, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. As they stepped closer to the platform, the air around them shimmered with an invisible force, causing them both to pause. The hum intensified, and then, as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. The platform began to glow with a faint blue light, and with a grinding sound that sent shivers down their spines, it slowly lifted from its resting place. "Careful," Kai warned, his hand tightening on his sword. Sil-Ra responded by drawing her own weapon, a slim blade with a blade of pure energy that crackled with static electricity. The platform rose higher, revealing beneath it what looked like the ruins of a massive artifact, cracked and faded, but still recognizable as some kind of ancient device. It was clearly designed to harness a power beyond anything Kai had ever encountered before. Silra's eyes widened. This is it must be the heart of whatever defeated their enemies. Kai nodded grimly. We need to know how it works if we're going to survive what's coming. They approached the artifact cautiously, their weapons at the ready. The platform continued its ascent, and when it reached the top of the chamber, it stopped with a final grinding noise. Silra stepped forward, placing her hand on the artifact's surface. A surge of energy crackled through her body, making her gasp in shock. "It's reacting to me," she said, her voice tinged with both awe and fear. Kai watched nervously as Silra began to decipher the carvings around the base of the artifact, her eyes glowing with an internal light as she focused on the ancient knowledge contained within. Each symbol she touched seemed to bring the past to life before her eyes, showing scenes of battles, sacrifices, and the final moments of an era long gone. "This place is not just a relic," Silra said, her voice echoing slightly in the cavernous space. "It's a key." "A key to what?" Kai asked, his voice tinged with urgency. Silra hesitated, her eyes darting back and forth as if she were struggling with something. "To the future," she finally whispered. "A way to alter our fate." Kai's jaw tightened. "But at what cost?" Silra's gaze met his, a mixture of determination and sorrow in her eyes. "We don't have much choice, Kai. If we want any hope of surviving what's coming, we need to use this." The hum of the artifact grew louder, and the air crackled with unseen power. Kai felt his heart pounding against his ribs as he realized the enormity of what they were about to do. "Ready yourself," Silra said, her voice commanding but tinged with fear. "This is going to be intense." Kai nodded, his grip tightening on his sword. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he was determined to face it alongside Silra. Together, they stood before the ancient artifact, about to unlock forces beyond their understanding, a decision that would not only shape their destiny, but potentially rewrite the course of history itself. The humming intensified, and the air crackled with an invisible field of energy. Suddenly, a blinding light enveloped them both, making Kai shield his eyes. When he opened them again, the entire cavern was bathed in an eerie glow that seemed to pulse in time with their heartbeat. "We're doing this," Silra said firmly, her voice steady but strained as she reached out to touch the artifact once more. As her fingers made contact, a surge of energy flowed through her, and she gasped in shock. Kai felt a similar rush of power run through him, and he stumbled back slightly, his body reacting to the unknown forces. The floor beneath them began to vibrate, and the air around them shimmered with an aura of raw magic. "What is happening?" Kai managed to ask, his voice barely audible over the pulsating hum. Silra's expression was a mixture of awe and horror as she grasped the depth of what they had unleashed. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. The energy around them intensified, and the air grew so thick it was difficult to breathe. Silra stumbled back, clutching her chest, as if the power was overwhelming her senses. He felt a deep connection to the artifact, an inexplicable pull that urged him to act. He stepped forward, placing his hand next to Silra's on the device. The moment their fingers touched, a surge of energy surged through them both. The cavern seemed to shake with the power released by the artifact. Shadows danced along the walls, and strange runes began to glow in the air, forming intricate patterns that seemed to twist and turn in impossible ways. As Silra and Kai held on to the device, their minds felt as if they were being pulled into an endless vortex of information and memories, overwhelming them with a flood of ancient knowledge. The artifacts seemed to pulse with life, its energy resonating through them like a living entity. The cavern around them began to transform, its very structure shifting and morphing. The walls rippled, and strange symbols appeared and disappeared in a hypnotic dance. Kai's mind swam with visions and nightmares, wars, betrayals, triumphs, and tragedies of the past, all swirling together in a chaotic kaleidoscope of history. Silra gasped, her body convulsing as she struggled to maintain control. "Kai, I can't, it's too much," she panted, her voice strained with effort. "I know," Kai replied, his grip tightening on the artifact. He felt the same overwhelming pressure in his mind, a flood of information and power threatening to consume him. Yet there was also a strange sense of clarity, a vision of what lay ahead, and the path they needed to take. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted violently, and Kai could feel the earth itself trembling under their feet. The artifact began to hum louder, almost like it was alive, and the pulsating light around them intensified until it felt as though they were standing in the eye of a storm. The air crackled with energy, and a sudden surge of power shot through Kai, making him stagger. He could feel his body being altered on a molecular level, each cell responding to the arcane forces that surrounded them. Silra's bioluminescence flared brighter, her dragon form shimmering as she absorbed the raw power of the artifact. The cavern seemed to stretch and bend, its very structure warping under the strain of the unleashed energy. Kai felt his senses expand beyond their normal limits, seeing and hearing things he knew were impossible in the physical realm. Visions of future events played out before him, a parade of possible futures that twisted and changed with each choice they made. Silra's eyes were wide, her face contorted with both fear and exhilaration. She could feel the energy shifting within her, a sensation like being torn between two worlds as the artifact's power took hold. "Kai, this is it's changing us. We can't stop now," Kai replied through gritted teeth. The knowledge flooding his mind was overwhelming, each moment filled with a torrent of information and possibility. The cavern continued to distort, and strange symbols appeared on their bodice, glowing runes that marked them as conduits for the artifact's power. Kay felt as if he were being remade, each cell responding to an ancient call that stretched back through the ages. As they stood amidst the swirling chaos, Silra suddenly let out a cry of anguish and joy, her body trembling in a strange dance between form and essence. Kai watched with a mix of awe and fear as she began to transform before his Aesir scales shimmering with an otherworldly light, her wings expanding to their full majestic length. "Kai," she gasped, her voice now a mixture of human and dragon, I can see the future." The artifact's hum reached its peak, and the cavern seemed to implode around them. The air crackled with energy as an intense force ripped through Kai's body, making him cry out in pain and wonder. His vision blurred and sharpened at the same time, revealing layers of reality that he had never imagined possible. As the world around them fragmented into a chaotic dance of light and shadow, Kai felt a sudden clarity pierce through the haze of visions of future events played out with breathtaking detail. Each possibility stretched before him like an endless tapestry of fate. Silra's voice echoed in his mind, her thoughts merging with his own as she shared the burden of the knowledge. Together, they saw the path ahead, a series of choices and consequences that could shape not only their future, but the entire course of history. The artifact's power continued to surge through them, each moment bringing a deeper understanding and a heavy weight of responsibility. Kay felt himself being pulled into an endless loop of possibilities, each choice leading down a path filled with unimaginable challenges. Silra collapsed slightly, her wings drooping as she struggled to hold on to the visions that now overwhelmed her. "Kai, we need to make a decision." Nodding grimly, Kay reached out and placed his hand on her shoulder, feeling an unspoken connection between them. They had walked this path together, and they would continue to do so, no matter the cost. The cavern around them began to fade, as if the very walls were dissolving into the fabric of time itself. A blinding flash of light enveloped them once more, and when it cleared, Kai and Silra stood at the edge of a new world, a place that existed beyond the boundaries of space and time. Silence reigned supreme in this new realm, broken only by the quiet hum of the artifact's power still flowing through them. The air felt different here, charged with an energy that seemed to resonate with their very souls. It was as if they had stepped into the heart of the universe itself. Kai turned to Silra, his eyes meeting hers in a moment of profound understanding. "We did it," he whispered, though the words held more meaning than they could express. Silra nodded, her dragon form shimmering gently with a soft light. "Yes, but now we face the true test, the consequences of our actions." Kai's grip tightened on the artifact, and he felt a surge of determination. "We'll face whatever comes next together. That's what this journey has taught us." Silra's eyes glowed softly as she agreed. "Together, we can shape the future, Kai. But it won't be easy." The world around them shifted once more, and they found themselves standing in a place that was both familiar and completely alien, in a battlefield of dreams and reality, where the threads of fate intertwine. As they stood there, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, they knew one thing for certainty had altered the course of history, becoming more than mere travelers through time. They were now catalysts for change, their decisions carrying the weight of countless lives yet to come. With a final shared glance, Kai and Silra stepped forward into the unknown, ready to embrace the future that awaited them. The air around them shimmered with an ethereal glow, almost as if the very fabric of reality was bending to accommodate their arrival. Kai's grip on Silra tightened slightly, not out of fear but solidarity. The world that greeted them was unlike any they had seen before. Vast plains stretched out beneath a sky that seemed to bleed hues of pink and purple, and in the distance, towering mountains pierced through the mist like ancient sentinels. Silra felt her heart swell with emotion as she took it all in. It was as if they were standing at the edge of an uncharted era, the possibilities endless yet daunting. She squeezed Kai's hand back, a silent acknowledgement that no matter what lay ahead, they would face it together. They began to walk, their footsteps leaving faint impressions on the soft ground beneath them. The air was cool and crisp, carrying with it a scent of adventure and unknown wonders. As they ventured deeper into this new realm, they encountered bizarre flora and fauna, flowers that seemed to sway and sing, creatures with iridescent wings who observed them curiously before fluttering off into the distance. Kai and Silra exchanged knowing glances, their bond growing stronger with each step they took. They knew they were on the cusp of something monumental, yet they embraced it without hesitation. The world was vast, and though the path ahead was shrouded in mystery, they found comfort in their companionship. As the day waned, they came across a clearing bathed in the soft light of the setting sun. A lone tree stood proudly at the center, its bark gnarled and ancient, and its leaves shimmering with a myriad of colors. The duo decided to rest beneath it, knowing that the journey ahead would likely be long and arduous. Kai sat down gracefully, his back against the tree trunk, and Silra mirrored his actions beside him. They gazed out at the horizon, where the sun was slowly dipping below the mountains, painting the sky with strokes of orange and gold. The landscape around them seemed to breathe, almost as if it were alive. Profound silence enveloped the clearing, a testament to the peace that could be found in moments like these. Silra leaned her head against Kai's shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing. It was then that she realized they had not spoken much since entering this new world. The words weren't necessary when thoughts and emotions flowed between them as naturally as the air they breathed. In the quiet of their surroundings, Kai turned to Silra with a gentle smile. "Do you ever wonder what lies beyond?" he asked, his voice barrel. "Why more than a whisper?" Silra nodded, her eyes glinting in the fading light. "Always," she replied softly, "but with you by my side, even the unknown seems less daunting." Kai's smile widened as he pulled Silra into a warm embrace. They held each other for what seemed like an eternity, their hearts beating as one. The world outside their bubble continued to evolve. The shadows lengthened. Night creatures began to stir, but within that secluded space, time stood still. Eventually, they released each other, both aware of the journey that awaited them. With renewed vigor, they set out once more into the uncharted territory, guided only by the light of their shared destiny and the promise of what lay ahead. The path was uncertain, but with every step, Kai and Silra grew stronger, their bond a testament to the belief that together anything was possible. As the horizon darkened into twilight, Kai and Silra stood at the edge of an ancient forest, its trees towering like giants from a forgotten era. The path before them twisted and turned, leading deeper into the shadows where only whispers carried through the breeze. Each step they took was a testament to their journey, a blend of strength and vulnerability, of trust and discovery. Silra's wings rustled gently against the bark of a nearby tree as she perched on a low branch, her scales shimmering in the last light of day. Kai approached her quietly, his heart heavy with thoughts unspoken but ever present. He wanted to ask about the future, about what lies beyond this moment, but the words caught in his throat. Instead, he offered a hand, and Silra, with eyes reflecting the complex tapestry of their shared journey, accepted it without hesitation. Together, they ventured deeper into the forest, the path narrowing until it felt like an intimate corridor leading them closer to the heart of everything they had come to understand about themselves and each other. The air was thick with the scent of earth and ancient magic, a reminder of the profound connection they shared with the world around them. As night fell, Kai and Silra found a small clearing bathed in the gentle glow of bioluminescent fungi. A sense of peace settled over them, but it was a peace tinged with an undercurrent of uncertainty, the kind that comes with looking towards a future filled with both promise and peril. They sat side by side, the weight of their bond hanging heavy between them. Silra leaned her head against Kai's shoulder, the soft whisper of her breath sending shivers down his spine. He placed a hand on her scale-covered arm, feeling the warmth beneath and the rough texture that spoke of years of hardship and triumph. Words weren't necessary. They were in a place where actions and presence held more meaning than words ever could. In that moment, Kai felt a deep, profound vulnerability welling up inside him, a vulnerability born from an unspoken question: could they truly face whatever lay ahead, both as individuals and as partners? The answer was there, right in front of them. But it wasn't one to be spoken aloud. It was something to be felt, experienced through the bond that had grown stronger with each challenge they had overcome. Silra lifted her head, meeting Kai's eyes. They were filled with understanding and love, a silent vow to continue onward, come what may. She leaned in closer, her breath mingling with his as she placed a delicate hand on his cheek. The touch was soft, almost imperceptible, yet it carried a weight of emotion that left both of them feeling exposed and beautifully raw. The clearing seemed to hold its breath as the night air chilled around them, the universe pausing in silent witness to their intimacy. And then, just when the moment felt too fragile to bear, Silra spoke in a voice barely above a whisper, "We will face it together." Kai's heart swelled with emotion, a mixture of fear, hope, and absolute certainty that they would continue to walk this path side by side. But there was also an unspoken knowledge that some questions remained unanswered, lingering at the edges of their understanding like shadows on the fringes of dawn. As they stood, ready to face whatever lay ahead, the forest seemed to respond, a chorus of night creatures singing in harmony with their resolve. The future stretched out before them, uncertain and boundless, but filled with an endless promise of what could be. In that moment, as darkness gave way to the first glimmers of morning, Kai and Silra's bond shone brighter than ever. It was a testament not only to the strength they had found in each other, but also to the enduring, unspoken question that would guide them forward what lies ahead. And so, with hope and determination, they took their first steps into the new day, their hands entwined and hearts intertwined. Silence. The silence hung in the air, dense and palpable, like a physical presence that pressed against the walls of the room. Each second ticked by with agonizing slowness, stretching time to a point where every heartbeat seemed like a thunderous echo. The clock on the wall, a relic of a simpler era, continued its ceaseless movement, its hands creeping forward like shadows lengthening at dusk. Emma's eyes darted from the floor to the ceiling, searching for any sign of an escape or an answer to their predicament. But there was nothing. No light beneath the door, no sound beyond the walls that could provide a clue to their situation or hope for salvation. It was as if the world outside had ceased to exist in the moments they were trapped within these four small rooms. The scent of old books and dust filled the air, mingling with the faint traces of something else, something she couldn't quite identify but which made her skin prickle with unease. It was a smell that promised secrets and forgotten histories, whispering to those who dared to listen. But Emma didn't dare. Instead, she clung to the solid fact of stone walls and concrete floors, reminding herself that these were tangible realities in an otherwise intangible world. A shiver ran down her spine as the reality of their situation began to sink deeper into her bones. They were alone, truly alone, and there was nowhere to turn for help. The realization hit her like a wave, sweeping away the thin layer of rationality she had been clinging to, leaving only fear and uncertainty in its wake. "Is it just me?" Ben whispered suddenly, his voice barely audible but cutting through the silence with the clarity of a sharp blade. "Or did you feel something different just now?" Emma's gaze snapped to his face. His eyes were wide, reflecting her own unspoken fears back at her like a mirror. She shook her head slowly, trying to shake off the sense of dread that had settled in her stomach like lead. But as she looked away again, her eyes caught on the closed door at the far end of the room, and for a moment she thought she saw it shift ever so slightly. A tremor of air, a hint of movement. "Did you see that?" she asked, more to herself than to Ben. He nodded, his voice a mere breath when he replied, "It's like something or someone is trying to reach us." Her heart pounded harder against her ribs as she stared at the door. The silence seemed to thicken around them, pressing in closer with each passing second. Emma felt the air grow colder, and a small shiver of unease ran through her. "What do we do?" Ben's voice was barely more than a whisper, but it was enough to snap Emma out of her daze. "We find out what's behind that door," she said firmly, her voice stronger now as she rose from the floor. The resolve in her eyes mirrored the determination in Ben's, and for a moment they shared a silent understanding. It was all they had left, this small spark of defiance against the overwhelming darkness that surrounded them. Together they approached the closed door, each step heavier than the last as the weight of their shared fear threatened to pin them down. Emma reached out a tentative hand, her fingers brushing the cold metal handle. Her heart raced as she twisted it and pushed the door inward, revealing a narrow hallway that led deeper into the unknown. The silence beyond was absolute, an oppressive blanket of nothingness that made every sense tingle with dread. But as they stepped into the dimly lit corridor, the room behind them seemed to fade away, the walls closing in, leaving only the faintest echoes of their former selves. Forward they moved, driven by a silent pact of survival and a desperate hope that somewhere down this endless hallway they would find an answer or at least an escape from the ever-encroaching darkness. The hallway stretched out before them, an endless ribbon of shadow and half-seen shapes. Emma's hand gripped Ben's tightly as they walked, their breaths mingling in the cold air that seemed to grow colder with each step they took. The walls were lined with ancient doors, all closed and unyielding, but it was the faint glow at the end of the hallway that kept them moving forward. As they drew closer, the light grew brighter, casting long shadows across the floor. It was like a beacon in the darkness, promising something beyond the mundane and the safe. The closer they got, the more the air seemed to vibrate with an almost imperceptible hum, as if the walls themselves were alive, whispering secrets to those who could hear. The glow became a pool of light at the end of the hallway, a warm contrast to the cold, sterile walls that had encased them. As they approached it, the light began to take on a shape, forming into an open archway that led out into a vast, dimly lit space beyond. For a moment, neither spoke as they stared at the portal before them, its edges shimmering with an ethereal glow. It was like looking into another world, one filled with the promise of unknown possibilities and hidden dangers. "Do you think?" Ben's voice cracked slightly as he hesitated, his hand reaching out tentatively towards the light. Emma nodded, her own fingers mirroring his movement. "We have to know what's on the other side." With that, they stepped through the archway, leaving behind the sterile confines of the hallway and stepping into a world where the boundaries between reality and imagination blurred and merged. The new space they entered was unlike anything they had seen before. The air felt different here, charged with an energy that hummed through every molecule. It was as if the very fabric of this place was alive, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed to echo in their bones. Emma's first impression was one of vastness. The space stretched out beyond the reach of her vision, filled with towering structures and objects that defied explanation. Strange machines hummed softly, their lights flickering in patterns that suggested a complex intelligence at work. In every direction, there were pathways leading deeper into the unknown, each turning away from the light of the entrance they had come through. Ben's eyes widened as he took in the sheer scale and complexity of what lay before them. "Where are we?" he whispered, his voice barely audible over the low hum that permeated the air. Emma shook her head, unable to form any words that could express the mystery of this place. She felt a sudden surge of excitement and fear mingling within her. This was their chance to uncover something profound, to break free from the mundane and delve into the unknown. But with every step they took further in, the weight of uncertainty and danger grew heavier. The machines around them seemed to hum with an ancient intelligence, their lights flickering in intricate patterns that suggested a complex network of interconnections. Emma approached one, her hand hesitantly reaching out towards a control panel, her fingers brushing against cold metal. The machine responded immediately, its lights changing to a warmer tone and its hum softening to a reassuring buzz. "Do you think these are?" Ben's voice trailed off as he watched the machine respond to Emma's touch. "Some kind of guidance system." Emma finished his thought, her eyes narrowing as she studied the patterns of light and sound. "It seems like they are designed to help us navigate this place." Together, they began to explore the area around them, the machines responding to their movements with a gentle hum that seemed almost welcoming. Each step brought new discoveries, from strange artifacts to floating holograms that provided snippets of information about the environment. The deeper they ventured into this enigmatic space, the more it seemed to transform around them. Holographic projections emerged from nowhere, forming diagrams and maps that detailed different pathways and destinations within this realm. Emma found herself deciphering these images, her mind drawing connections between the data points and the physical structures around them. "Look," Ben said suddenly, pointing at a small, glowing orb that floated in midair. It pulsed with a soft blue light, its surface inscribed with symbols she couldn't quite make out from this distance. As they approached, the orb began to move towards them, floating gracefully, until it was eye level with both of them. Its light grew brighter, and a voice, soft but clear, seemed to emanate from within. "Welcome, travelers. The path you seek lies beyond this chamber." The orb then turned, guiding them through a narrow passage that opened up behind it. As they followed, the walls around them shifted and melted away, revealing a grand staircase leading upwards into the heart of this strange new world. Emma felt a surge of excitement mingled with apprehension. This was the beginning of something significant, an adventure that promised both enlightenment and peril. Every step they took brought them closer to uncovering the mysteries that lay ahead, yet each step also reminded them of the uncertainties and dangers that accompanied their journey. "Are you ready for what's next?" Ben asked, his voice laced with a mixture of awe and caution as they reached the bottom of the staircase. Emma nodded, her resolve unwavering. "Let's see where this path leads us." With those words, they began to climb the staircase, their hearts full of hope and their minds open to the wonders that awaited them at the top. As Emma and Ben ascended the staircase, the air grew colder and the light dimmer, casting long shadows that seemed to twist and dance around them. The steps beneath their feet were smooth and polished, worn by countless travelers who had passed through this place before them. Each step echoed with a hollow resonance, carrying the weight of time and mystery. The staircase wound upward, leading deeper into the heart of the enigmatic space. The air became thinner, each breath a struggle against an unseen force that seemed to press upon their lungs. Despite the physical strain, the mental and emotional burden was even heavier as the mysteries that surrounded them began to take shape and substance. At the top of the staircase, they emerged into a vast chamber, its ceiling stretching far above them like the night sky. The walls were lined with intricate carvings and symbols, each one telling a story from an age long forgotten. In the center of the room stood a massive, ancient machine, its surface etched with lines that seemed to pulse with latent energy. "Is this?" Ben began, his voice barely above a whisper as he stared at the machine in awe. Emma nodded, her eyes scanning the complex array of buttons and displays. "It looks like some kind of control center for this entire space. Maybe it can tell us more about what's happening." Together, they approached the machine, their fingers brushing against cold metal surfaces that seemed to respond with a soft hum. As Emma placed her hand on one of the controls, a light flickered to life, illuminating the interface before them. "Let's see if we can get some information," she said, her voice steady despite the tension she felt inside. The machine responded to their touch, its screens lighting up with data and diagrams that seemed to form a narrative about the space they had entered. As Emma and Ben studied the information, they began to piece together a picture of this place and its purpose. It was an archive, a repository of knowledge and experience from countless travelers who had come before them, each leaving their mark in